Here is Representative Elise Stephanie talking about the January 6th committee, and she is very upset that the committee has not turned over their records to House Republicans. A reminder that there are House Republicans on the committee, but the majority of the Republican caucus refused to engage in the January 6th committee. And frankly, Bradley was the first to make this point, and I've been thinking about it for a little while, like whenever I've been, just thinking about the political ramifications of the committee's findings. If the Republicans had wanted to engage in this process, they could have at least been on the airwaves and shouting this stuff down and, lying, of course, about Donald Trump's role, but they were too afraid and they wanted to marginalize it. The Democrats, I will very rarely give them credit, very rarely, but they've done a good job of forcing this into the national consciousness, and the polling has shown that it has moved certain people, because this is just a window into what Fox News has been doing for decades. What we saw with this, and frankly, it's been with the help of CNN and MSNBC, who, since it's not an economic issue, it's not anything involving the progressive, scary left, and taxes and raises aren't being discussed, they've been essentially united on this front. Because it's threatened the institutions that they hold so close to their heart, they have been airing and focusing very much on the January 6th hearings, and I don't think the right anticipated this to this degree. So here's Elise Stephanie, I think, having a little bit of buyer's remorse, I should say, maybe not the right phrase, but remorse that the Republicans don't really have an opposition. They're just putting their heads in the sand to the January 6th committee's findings and crying about not being involved in the process on Mark Levin's show.
Documents be protected and so forth. Are the Republicans ensuring that these documents will be protected, even with this January 6th committee? What has the response from Nancy Pelosi been?
The response from Nancy Pelosi for the January 6th committee has been no response. They have not complied with our request to preserve the documents and turn the documents over. So we intend to pursue that when we earn the majority. When it comes to the multiple controversies of Joe Biden's illegal entanglements with Hunter Biden's illegal business operations, we have made those requests in terms of document preservation. We have made those requests in terms of turning over the documents. They have stonewalled us. But again, when the House flips as we work to earn the majority, we are going to ensure that transparency and accountability and the actual role of Congress, which is to have oversight, that's an important role that a Democrat-controlled Congress has absolutely failed on, that we hold them accountable. And it's not just the Biden crime family issues, it's issues like the border. They have refused to turn over documents and to make administration officials available when it comes to the border crisis.
Okay, sure. The Democrats are the ones who are not being transparent.
Yeah, it must be so tough when people ignore your requests for documents, huh, Elise?
It's odd, yeah.
Almost like it's also difficult when people continually ignore congressional subpoenas.
Almost like that. Documents being ignored, document requests being ignored, which I don't even trust her on that, but say that's the case. Say that, by the way, once this concludes, I'm sure they'll make all the documents available, 100%. But say that's the case. Donald Trump, there were reports that he tried to shove documents down the toilet at the White House. We're going to be... Which party's more transparent? Which party's more transparent?
Whose chief of staff was throwing documents into the fireplace again?
Yeah, and by the way, we're about to find out some deleted Secret Service texts. And yeah, I don't know what their party affiliation was, but we sure as hell know who the Secret Service was working for on the days when those text messages were deleted January 5th and January 6th. So please spare me the pearl clutching about transparency, especially because the committee hasn't concluded yet. You'll get your documents, but she doesn't really care about that. They are struggling to come up with a counter narrative right now because they refuse to engage in this process. They made an error, in my opinion, a very rare unforced error by the Republican Party not to be in the middle of the Jan 6 hearings. And hey, it's good. It's good because they're not muddying the message in any way, and the message should be Donald Trump and the Republican Party is an existential threat to democracy. And I have no fealty to our institutions, but I do care about elections being fair in this country. And with that, I'm united with the entire Democratic Party and with CNN and MSNBC on. And the American people are, too. You see over 60% feel that Donald Trump lied about the election, and those numbers keep growing. And so now Stefanik only has the opportunity to just complain about, I'm not getting documents on time. You think that's going to be effective in the face of these primetime hearings and people actually paying attention to this? I don't think so.
And also, to your point there, too, Axios had some reporting earlier this morning that, of course, it's not as statistically significant or, prominent as a poll, but so two focus groups in Wisconsin seem to have, some Republican and independent voters thinking that Trump,
you put that in the packet.
Yeah, that Trump was either, guilty for what guilty or, responsible for what happened on January 6th, which, like you said, they've had Republicans without any way to cross-examine with people on their side because Kinzinger and Cheney are not the people they want in there. They have no built-in response. They have no built-in way. There's no baked-in counterinsurgency to this committee. And I just want to point out, just for my own sensibilities, Elise Stephanie is one of the most bloodless, fraudulent con artists in Congress. She came into Congress as a moderate Republican, a centrist Republican, and then when she got redistricted into a much redder seat, she now became one of Donald Trump's favorite congresspeople. She has truly no allegiance to anything but getting more appearances like this, and nothing out of her mouth can be trusted because she's a liar.
Yeah, right, exactly. I also just want to point out, too, how she mentions the Biden crime family, right?
The Borgias.
Hey, I mean, maybe I'm a softie, but I feel bad for Hunter Biden. Like, he has a lot of problems, and the fact that his, private videos and stuff is being broadcast to the public is, I don't care how privileged you grew up, he has a lot of issues he has to work through, and it's just completely unfair and unconscionable what the right-wing media is doing to him in terms of an invasion of privacy. There's no newsworthiness to the fact, frankly, that he was doing crack or that he was with some sort of sex worker. I just, please, enough of this. But that's a preview of what they're going to do when they likely retake the House in the fall. I have a lot of optimism about the negative partisanship that the Democrats have weaponized for maybe the first time in their lives with this January 6th stuff. I don't think it's enough to overcome the House being lost. Hopefully it's enough to retain the Senate. But the Biden crime family, what was the president's family like before Biden? I just want people to thought experiment here. Just a little bit of one, right? Were they engaged in deals internationally that were shady? Did they get contracts after they got into office that were shady from countries that we were doing business
Hotel
with?
Stays.
Oh my goodness, yeah. There is a treasure trove of dirt on the Trump crime family. As powerful, families go, I don't think the Bidens, with all of their flaws, are as corrupt as others. But certainly the Ukraine deal is just a standard nepotism deal that happens with a lot of kids of politicians.
Yeah, I will say, independent of the personal stuff that Hunter is experiencing, which I try not to pass judgment on because, like you said, it seems to be legitimate and pressing and difficult for him and his family. Obviously, the Burisma thing could be considered a conflict of interest with Biden as vice president. Even the appearance of impropriety was enough to think about it that way. But independent of that, one of, I think, the most unapologetically and unequivocally good things about Joe Biden, it's one of the few things that I think this about him, is that in any of these leaks where there have been text conversations between him and Hunter, it's literally him like unconditionally supporting his son through his addiction.
It's
like how can Rudy Giuliani, how can Sean Hannity, how can they literally be like, oh wow, he loves his fucked up kid, like how that like
unconditionally.
Oh my god, true love for your son, like that's so lame. Like
it's definitely the number one thing. I mean, it's the probably might be one of the only things I like about Joe Biden. He's a good dad.